Another thing, okay, this is a huge, now this is one that I think could apply to everybody. Everybody has this problem. The problem of keeping track of little bits of information, little notes and so forth. Now I have two ways of doing this. I'm not going to tell you about the other one because I found that most people don't like the other one. So I'm going to just skip over that one. I'm going to tell you about this one. This is the one that people like. It's called Evernote. And what Evernote does is any little piece of information you need to keep track of, including the receipts. If you wanted to do that with Evernote, you can do that with Evernote. Anything you want to do. Websites, emails, anything. You just dump it into Evernote. Or scan it. You can scan things within Evernote. Then in Evernote, you can create little notebooks for different topics and drag things around and put them in the notebooks. You can have little text notes to yourself, which is what I find really useful. Like I put anything that I think I might want to keep track of, it just becomes a little text note in my iPhone. But I need it to synchronize with other things because I don't really want to use my iPhone to access a lot of information. I also don't want to input complicated information in my iPhone. I'd like to be able to get on a computer and have it show up on my iPhone. So Evernote has an iPhone app, an iPad app, all that stuff, Android, everything. You can access this information from anywhere. And this is what it would look like on my Mac, using the Mac application. I have all these little folders for things, and you can see I'm in the inbox, so it's showing you everything in my inbox right now. And the last thing I did was clip an article about 10 tips for using Evernote effectively, and all I do is clip it and say send it to Evernote. If people send me an email and I want that to get to Evernote, I just forward it to Evernote because there's an email address that you can create that will just accept things and send them in. And if you have different folders, you can put a special word in there and it'll know to send it to that folder. This is the tool that when people discover it and start using it, they all swear by it. They think it's the most amazing thing in the world. And it's free. Now, at some point, you'll get to the point where you start using a lot more information, and then they'll charge you. But it's basically free for the most part. So it lets you put in text, web pages, pictures, PDFs. Like last night, for example, I was having a bottle of wine, and I trained myself, before I start drinking a new bottle of wine, I might like it. So I take a picture of it, send it to Evernote. And then if I like it, then I make some notes. And I have a folder called wine. And all the pictures of the labels are in there because I can never remember what wine I had. But this lets me keep track of it.
That's because you drink it too much.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I live in New Orleans, so my memory, no chance of a memory for me. So it's free, or the premium version is $45 a year. You don't need the premium version. This was the hot tech thing that just came out. So of course I had to have it, and I asked for it for Christmas. And my wife rolled her eyes, as she always does when I ask her new technology stuff. And now she likes this way more than me. What this is the Nest thermostat. It's from some people who left Apple, who looked at the problem of thermostats and said, the thermostat controls 50% of the energy in your house. They're ugly. The programmable ones are impossible to program. Why don't we create one that's attractive and just learns on its own, just figures out when people are around, and then just kind of programs itself. So it's called the Learning Thermostat. And basically, it's $250. You install it yourself. Oh, that's probably not a good idea. So you have to pay them $118, and they have people that come out and install it. And then it has wireless built into it. It has all these sensors built into it. So literally, you can take out your iPhone right now. Like right now, I can say, okay, let me see what the temperature is in my house. Let me check my Nest here. And now I have 3 of them now, because after I got the first one, I got 2 more for the other. So downstairs is at 73, up 72, 72. I can turn it off, change things, change the temperature. That in itself is pretty good. And it knows when you're away. Because if it detects no human activity in the house, for a couple hours it just goes into away mode. And you can't get them right away because the company is so popular, you're automatically waiting. Now this is something that not everybody is going to want, but it's on a sale price right now. It's the Hammacher Schlemmer. If you guys can't see, you're missing the joke. It's the Swiss Army knife. The 3 Swiss Army knife, $1,400, and now available for only $9.99, $95 operator standing by. Yes, I'm sure it is. All right. I feel bad that I'm going to have to proselytize here, but I just tell the truth. Okay? I learned most of what I know about technology when I had a PC, when I worked at a firm and I had a PC. I didn't want a Mac, I didn't care about Macs, but I got one after a while because I said, you know, I know some of these technology conferences, a lot of people, even the people who develop programs for Windows exclusively, have Macs. That seems weird to me. Maybe I should get one, try it out. So I did. And the more I used the Mac, the more I realized it was an amazing machine. So at this point, I'm going to go into my proselytizing. I'm just going to tell you the truth. If you have Windows machines and like them, that's great. If you like them and you can keep the viruses off of them, you don't have any problems, and they're reliable, that's great. But for the rest of you, unless you have a specific reason to use Windows, and as a lawyer, I have one specific reason to use Windows, and for a while I had a Windows machine to do that, and now I just run Windows inside of my Mac and accomplish that one thing. Here's the thing about Macs. Number one, no viruses. Now, today I read about some new virus. Okay, right. You read about them. Has anybody here met a person with a Mac who, like, the Mac just crashed and they couldn't deal with it because they had a virus? I haven't. But maybe you have, and that's okay. But they're rare. The point is, they're rare, if that exists. How many people here have met a Windows person who had a virus? Hello, everybody raise their hand now. Okay. So, definitely advantage Mac. They're more reliable, they're easier to fix, and the main reason they're easier to fix is because you bring them to an Apple store, and they don't say things like, well, that's the operating system, well, I'm sorry, that's the hardware problem. It's their problem, and they fix it, and they're really good at it. And I love that about Apple. The operating system, and this is more, you may not care about this, but if you think about this, this tells you something important about Apple, and we all know Apple's making lots of money, so you know that. But when the new operating systems come out for Apple, like the last two, you know how much they cost? Anybody know? $29. $29. And they were the first one to let you download it over the internet. Apple wants you and encourages you and makes it easy for you to have the latest operating system. Not because they want to ruin your life and make you somebody who's leading edge technology, but because they want to make it easier for you to have the latest security and all that stuff. They can do that because they're selling the hardware. That's just the way it works. But they can also try to save, to make a lot of money by selling you the software, and people pay for that. But they don't want that. They want things to make sense and be efficient. I'm just telling you that's, I didn't come from Apple land. I moved there and I like it. And it's fully compatible for most tasks, so there's no reason not to get it. This is another tip that seems like, oh, I don't need to spend money on an extra monitor. We spend a lot of time on our computers. We do a lot of things on our computers. And the more things we do, the more confusing it is where all these windows are. 2 monitors is a no-brainer now. Unless you spend less than an hour a day on your computer or you're traveling and you always have a laptop, if you're at your desk working on a computer, you should get a second monitor. It'll take a little while to get adjusted and to learn how it works, maybe a day or two. But once you do, you will be one of those people who say, I could never work again with that. Because obviously, the more screen you have to put information on, the better. So, the second monitors these days would be like, what, 250 at most for 8-inch screens? So definitely, You can learn a lot about efficiency when you pay attention to people who work in the tech world, because they have to create things quickly, they have to respond to change quickly, they don't have time for a lot of BS. So, one of the things we can learn about from Google, and there are a lot of tech companies that say this kind of thing, is how to have more efficient meetings. At Google, these are the rules for meetings. Number 1, a decision maker has to be at every meeting. Because why would you have a meeting if you're not going to make a decision? No decision, no meeting. It has to be less than 10 people. You can't have a meeting with more than 10 people. Everyone at the meeting has to offer ideas. They don't just show up to have popcorn and sit around and watch other people. If they're not there to offer ideas, they shouldn't be there. The agenda for the meeting, there has to be an agenda. It has to be written. It has to be circulated before the meeting. And everybody, after the meeting is over, gets an assignment. What was your assignment at the meeting? And what are your deadlines? Okay? Now, there's another thing that's not in the Google list of tips for meetings. This is my own tip, but I've seen other people suggest this as well. See that? You can't have that at the meeting. It's a chair. No chairs at the meeting. If you don't have a chair, people aren't going to sit there and linger and talk about stupid things. They're just going to move on.